Hello. Gonna wait for people if they want to come on, but no one comes on. Not a big deal for me. I just wanted to live stream the research process, and if anyone wanted to join in and either view it or assist me or give me some suggestions on what I should do, it's all you. So, as a preface for those just joining, I have a reenactment coming up mid-July. I am going to be participating in a Liberty Rifles reenacting event, and we will be portraying the 119th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry, Company A. So historically, this unit was pulled out of the Overlands campaign. So we were at the Wilderness, we were at Spotsylvania, we were at Cold Harbor, and we were digging in at Petersburg. But now we are being sent to the Shenandoah because Early is making a push towards Washington, D.C. So the 119th was brought forward to meet Early, and this reenactment will be our regiment following and kind of supporting a wagon train. And that whole weekend, we're going to be subject to rebel cavalry harassing us. So that's going to be fun. And at these types of events, I just want to make sure I get the most out of them. And there really isn't that much first person done at this type of stuff, but I there are some moments where that could happen. And when those moments come, I just want to make sure that I have research done. I want to make it as immersive and interactive and accurate as possible. And some of my friends know this, but I take the research part very seriously with first person. I go into census records, newspapers, regimental histories. In fact, I just bought the 119th Regimental History. It should be coming next week, hopefully. But but yeah, I want to really get it right. So that's what I'm streaming. I'm streaming my process. I'm going to record this and post it on the YouTube channel here. It's gonna be it'll be fun. We'll see where it goes. And because it's first person, because I'm creating a fictional character, it's up to you. So let me just take a sip of my coffee here. Then we could get started. So I created a Google Doc and inputted some information already. There are two aspects of the research that I need to do, and I can't do it all today. But the first half is my first person. So what that means is the character himself. We need to come up with a background for this person, his childhood, find out where he lived, maybe come up with some historical stories, some things that he witnessed and saw and experienced, and put it down on a Google Doc and study it so that when we're around the campfire or on the march, I could share some anecdotes and stories from my character's childhood that are accurate, that actually do reflect Philly in this time. So, I'm just gonna run over to my Facebook really quick and get a link to the stream. So this is kind of meta here, but here we go. So now, let's get to business. Let's do this. Ultimately, my goal is I want to create a character that is Irish and German American. Because I'm doing World War One reenacting and German World War One reenacting, I am trying to get deeper and deeper into that that vibe, German American history. But at these types of events, they're gonna use my real name, and my real name is Irish. So just to alleviate that, I'm going to make my father an Irish immigrant and my mother a German immigrant. So I want to be the child of immigrants and dip my feet into both cultures, but I'm more interested in the German one. Now, what's fascinating is in Pennsylvania, technically Philadelphia, which is where the 119th is from, there was a lot of tension between Catholics and Protestants before the Civil War. I believe it was 1844, we saw something called the Bible riots, where there was a debate over reading the Bible in public schools in Philadelphia. And because, Protestants and Catholics have different Bibles, the Catholics opted out. And the school board in Philadelphia said, "Hey, you know what? Let's just make it easier because we have Catholics and Protestants. Let's get rid of the Bible reading in school." The Protestant population in Philly freaked out. Reactionaries went into, I think, the Catholic neighborhood of Kensington. I don't quote me on that, but Protestant evangelicals went into a Catholic neighborhood and just spouted very anti-Catholic nonsense. Kind of like, you're banning us, you're closing down Bible study in schools, you're against our religion. And sure enough, it rained that day. The Catholics fought back, and the retaliation that the Protestants brought forth in the Catholic neighborhoods was almost like a mini pogrom. We had we had entire homes and businesses being burned down by Protestants, violence and scuffles that led to the death of dozens of Catholics and some Protestants, and the burning of Catholic churches. Now, I don't remember what Catholic church was burnt down. It was either St. Matthias or St. Peter's. Nonetheless, it was still a pretty significant event. So, these are the types of things that I want to know if I'm portraying a soldier from Philadelphia, and especially if I am portraying somebody who has an Irish Catholic father. So, really, when you do these research stories, you gotta think from the point of view of the person you're creating and really identify the identities that this person has. So if dad's Irish and an Irish immigrant, most likely he's going to be an Irish Catholic. So I would probably be raised in a Catholic environment, or if I feel like it, I could make my father absentee and just be raised by my mother, who could be a German Protestant. I have many options here, but with it, let's just work on this. So I want to be a factory worker or a laborer. What I like to do is I like to go to Ancestry and get inspired by looking at census records and census reports. We could identify the 1860 census because that is the closest census we have to 1864. It's just before the Civil War, which is really good. So let's go over to US Census records. Now I need to manually search. Let's go to the 1860 census. Looks like it was just updated. And at the right here, let's choose Pennsylvania. And Philly, most likely, right? Philadelphia. So we could look at the census records for any of these regions of Philadelphia. Now, I kind of did this earlier. I have a list. Uh, See this? Philadelphia primary sources and directories. I created like a list of resources already because I did this last week. And we have some city maps. And from my research the other day, I want to look towards the 13th ward of Philly near Spring Garden Street because this area of the city was a very German area. A lot of German immigrants lived here. So we're going to explore the census map and the census record of 1860 in Philadelphia's 13th ward to see if we could get inspired and look at some actual historic people who lived in this area and see what the vibe is. You know what I mean? Like, see what type of jobs were common in this area and perhaps align my character with one. Or my parents' character with one. So let's go to the 13th ward. Oh, how about this? Let's get a map. Let's get our bearings here. Luckily, when you're studying. Oh, same place. Luckily, when you're studying the big cities such as Philadelphia, there's a lot of research out there already, very well documented. So it's good to try to tap into that stuff. All right, maybe this map will take us somewhere. Map of the city. Oh, this is the 5th and 6th ward. Not what I'm interested in. Nope, no thank you. Okay, you know what? I think I think we'll be okay without looking at ward maps. Okay, let's look at the census report. And there are 505 pages. We are absolutely not going to go through every single one. You crazy? But what we will do is go through a series of consecutive pages because the census records were done by people straight up just going and knocking on the doors of people living in these houses. So if we could get just a street, the vibe of what it's like living on the street, who's living there, what type of people are there, maybe identify either racial or class lines too to spice things up in terms of imagining what our childhood would be like. Actually, this wouldn't be childhood, would it? This is 1860. Hmm. Maybe we should do an earlier census. Hold on. Yeah, let's do an earlier census. I apologize for those of you watching. This is my process. Okay, we're not gonna do the 1860 census. Rather, we're gonna go back and imagine this. So I'm 28 years old. To be of my age in 1864, I would have been born in 1836. So the closest census would be the 1840s for my childhood. Let's do that. Let's look at the 1840 census, the 1840 federal census of Philadelphia, and go towards the third ward or 13th ward, Pennsylvania. Let's head down to Philly. Now check this out. Look at the difference. This is what might be a little challenging here because the wards didn't go up to 13, But we do have the Spring Garden Ward, which is Ward 1, and I did say this is where I want to be from. This was a pretty German area as far as I'm aware. So maybe not at this time, but let's check it out. Let's go to the Spring Garden Ward and view Philly from the point of view of my character as a child. Okay, so what can we learn from this census record? Notice how it's not as specific as the 1860, so we probably won't spend as much time on this one. Nonetheless, we could still learn something. Okay, so at the top, I'm sorry, at the top we have the head of family. We see free white persons, free colored persons, and each line is a head of family. So we got. I don't think this will help us with individual, just like people. Unfortunately, we may need to go backwards. That's the thing about the 1840 census. You know, it might be helpful if we look for the state census records. But just checking it out, we see a pretty homogenous neighborhood. Not many black Americans living in Spring Street area, except down here. So we do have some, which does show that this is a metropole. This is an area that is diverse in Philly at this time period, and that's what we expect in many northern cities. But let's look for a state census. All right, I think I feel more comfortable looking for state census records. I'll have to go to the card catalog for that. Okay. Wow, for Philly, looks like, or Pennsylvania rather, we have Philadelphia Census of African Americans in 1847. That's interesting. They just decided to do a census on that year just for African Americans. Um, Fascinating. I didn't know that. Okay, we have Centennial every 7 years. We have this. This could be quite useful because it begins in 1779. We could possibly find info there. This is just for Perry County. No, no. Yeah, these aren't our counties. But it looks like. Ooh, what's this one? U.S. compiled census and census substitutes. U.S. federal. Okay, this is the federal census. So let's go to the state census every 7 years. See what we have. Let's go and look for Philadelphia. Let's do 13th Ward. Only 1863, which is actually really cool because 1863 is 1 year before the event we're reenacting. By this time, this record is probably the closest we could nail to finding any local connection to Philadelphia. So this is a pretty useful source. I think I may just explore this one really quick. Because ultimately, what's our first step? Our first step is to just get a sense of the area of Philadelphia our character lives in. And here we are in 1863, the 13th Ward. What does it look like? Let's find out what we could learn from the 13th Ward. I'm sorry, from this document. We'll learn the name, surname, occupation. At the top, we have age. Sorry. Age, slaves, male. female. What does this say? Blind, deaf, white, colored. Okay. So let's go teach us at least some demographic information about our character. Lot of white people. No information on the age of these citizens, by the way. Also, no information on their ethnic backgrounds, which would be really helpful if we're trying to portray immigrant Americans or, first or second generation, which is what I want to do. Yeah, I don't, I don't see any. Yeah, there's a German name, Jacob. What's cool is what we can do, and this is what I've done in the past for developing characters. I actually base my character, whatever I develop, usually off of a real person that I find in a federal census record, and then search for that character in the directories of the city that he lived in. Search the newspapers for this character, and I think this would be a really useful document once we find a character, because as cool as this document is, I don't think we could learn as much info other than their demographics, which I mean, it doesn't even have their I mean, it does have their occupation. Yeah, it does have their occupation. Let's do this. Let's look at the list of occupations and see who's living in the 13th ward, and see if it's a working or middle class area. I see an attorney, printer, gilder. Can't read these. Low, that's an L. Lodi? I don't know what that means. Officer? Printer, baker, boot fitter, grocer. Okay, so if I put these all on a list and assess, what class am I sensing? I don't think I'm thinking like upper working class, lower middle. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I mean, we have an attorney, but we have painters as well. Seems like a mixed neighborhood in terms of class. Carpenter, that's a skilled trade. Yeah, I keep seeing this. I don't know what that is. Is this, hold on, does this mean lady? Is that what this says? Lady. There's a X in the fourth category. What's that one? Female. Okay. Oh, wait, female. Yep. Okay. Then maybe that just means lady, and the census taker didn't have an occupation for them except lady. That's my guess because I can't read what that says, and it keeps showing up for only women. See, there's another one. We have an innkeeper, bookbinder. Ooh, that's a cool job. And a tailor. See, okay, yeah, I'm noticing that these are skilled professions. These are skilled trades. So I think the 13th ward in Philadelphia at this time period in U.S. history, 1860s, my character would be living in a middle class region. So I think it might be interesting to give my character a skilled job, a skilled profession. Uh, Ultimately, it would be cool to have it in a factory, because I was talking with Jory. He's my friend who's doing this reenactment, and he came over the other day, and we were just walking around the city, where I live in Cohoes. We're walking around Cohoes. It's a very industrial area, and we showed interest in portraying working to middle class socialists because this time period, 1860, 1864, socialism is a new ideology, especially among immigrants fleeing the 1848 revolutions in Europe. And I think with that 1848 spirit, Jory and I want to give voice to that and just portray that. So I'm looking for somebody who is either educated but also, you know, more susceptible to that 1848 style ideology of either liberalism or socialism. And I think I'm leaning more towards socialism um, for this character. Meaning that if I live in the 13th Ward, I would be surrounded by a bunch of skilled professionals. Yeah, look at all these. Um, we're gonna challenge this. I'm gonna probably go a couple more because because these are all done door to door. So I think if we go a few more pages, we can get a sense of just who's living on the street. And honestly, I don't think it says what street this is. Hold on. Usually in the census records, they put the street name at the top or along the side, but I do not think they did that. This. Yeah, no, they didn't. Yeah, so I see more ladies. Let's go up. A dealer, dealer, innkeeper, a bricklayer. Okay, so that seems more unskilled labor. Well, I don't know. Maybe like a construction worker, a salesman, barber, barber. Yeah, okay. I am getting the sense of middle class area. Okay, so we'll be middle class. Let's just book it. Say middle class. Oh, more here. Looking at the names. Hitzel. Hiss. Machinists. Lady. Okay, so we have some mechanics and machinists here. All right. So, what does that teach me? What's a definite that I've learned? 1863, the 13th Ward, or at least a portion of the 13th Ward I'm interested in. Very, well, very white, first off. Very white, it seems like. And also middle class. Okay. Let's, uh, let's now look at the 1860 census and work backwards. Oh, hold on. I should have, silly me. I'm gonna go back to the 1863 document just to corroborate. I'm gonna choose somebody on this list and see if, unless this is this alphabetical? Is this an alphabetical list rather than? Because if it's alphabetical, I can't do that. It looks alphabetical. Yeah, it's alphabetical. Never mind. Okay. See some German names. Let's go back to our census. 13th Ward. Well, let me show you what info you could learn on a more modern census. So notice how we could learn much more. We have the date. We have June 14th, 1860. We even have the guy who did this stretch of road, which is way cool. But nonetheless, let's check it out. Why do we keep zooming in that much? I don't want to zoom in that much. Okay, so we have the Evan family. But hold on, before we do that, check this out. We have the people actually living there, dwelling, houses, numbered in order of visitation, families number. So notice how we have the first house, first family, second house, second family, third house, third family. It's going to be a little different once you have renters. So one thing that I'm actually learning from this, oh shoot, that's interesting. These are actual homes. I don't see people renting yet in this part of the 13th Ward, at least. Looks like they're all living in the same home. You have some people, like with domestic servants. The other information we could learn for our research is, well, the age, sex, and color of the individuals living in the house, as well as their profession. This will help us in terms of class, and also the value of the real estate if it's owned, and value of your personal estate. So this is actually kind of cool. It shows us how much money is held within each family unit, as well as the amount of money within the home. So this could give us an even more accurate depiction of class in the 13th Ward. Let's do it. We're going to go to another page. So aside from the money, we could also learn their place of birth. This is really cool because it tells us if they're born in Pennsylvania, but also if we're looking for an immigrant, it will tell us if they're born outside of the United States. And I'm looking for people born either in Pennsylvania or, even better, Germany or Ireland. I'm looking for Germany. Germany would be really cool. So any of those German states. Because we have to remind ourselves, Germany did not exist in 1860. Germany will exist 11 years later in 1871. So in the meantime, you'll have like Prussia, you may see Hesse, Württemberg, or other German states rather than a unified Germany. We also have, let's see if you're married within the year, if they attended school within the year, or if the person's age is 20 years and they cannot read or write, and if they're deaf, dumb, blind, insane, idiotic, pauper, or convict. Wow. uh, they were pretty upfront with that language, weren't they? Let's have some fun and go to a random page. We're going to go to page 67. It goes to show you how many people actually lived in the 13th Ward, huh? They had 505 pages. Okay. First thing that catches my eye is the birthplace. I'm looking for Germans. Holland, New Jersey, Ireland. Looks like we're kind of in an Irish area of the 13th Ward here. Pennsylvania and Ireland, Delaware. Oh, some people liking that post. Way cool. Okay. Massachusetts. Oh, come on. There we are. We have one Germany. Now remember, Germany didn't exist at the time, but that still didn't stop people being labeled as German or Germany because that is a major ethnic group and sometimes uh, ethnic description if they can't find a specific state in Germany they're from. And this person is a domestic from German domestic working for this family who has their own house. Look at their house is worth $12,000 and they have $5,000 worth of their personal estate. Yeah, we are dealing with wealthy people here. Look, we have a merchant, $20,000. Man, I tell you what, the amount of money in this part of the city is mind-boggling. Bremen is a German city. Looks like the only Germans here with orders are domestics working for the wealthy. That's really funny. Okay. Yeah, an Irish domestic. $10,000 personal estate. Wow. Doesn't even say what the guy does. They didn't get that info on him. Incredible. Pennsylvania, Connecticut. Alright. Well, I must be in a very affluent region of the 13th Ward. This person makes ladies' shoes, and he has a home that is worth $25,000 and $10,000. Yes. He does have a German wife, though, from Bavaria, and actually, he is German, I think, Weiermann. This is an interesting guy. He has two children. And there's a sales lady living in the house. Probably an employee of Henry's who has $200. Not much. Look at that. 10,000 and they only get 200 as a cut. Julia. Julia lives in Bavaria, so it looks like this guy's just hiring yeah, Germans. Here's Switzerland. This is pretty close to Bavaria, southern Germany. And a Prussian is living here. Wow. And that's all. Yeah, so we have this German entrepreneur who makes ladies' shoes, and he is definitely um, doing well. Now, Mary, who is this guy's kid, is attending school. Same with Henry, named after himself. He's attending school too. So you can kind of picture it, can't you? Yeah. So if I want to, I could be a part of a family like this one. That's interesting. That's page 73. Okay, remember that. In fact, I could actually incorporate Weissman or Weierman in the story. You know what? Just because we spend time on it, let's do it. Why not? So that'll be one of our first things. All right. I'm gonna find the story. Guy who makes ladies' shoes. I wonder what business he has. There he is. Henry Weierman. You know what? I'm gonna entertain this. This is the 1861 directory for the city of Philadelphia. I wonder if I can find his name in there and see the name of his business. advertisements. I don't see him advertising. Business directory. Let's have some fun. His name is Henry Byerman. Let's look. He's 49 in 1860, meaning he would have been born in 1811. And he was born in Pennsylvania, we know that. His spouse. Who's his spouse? Mary. Mary H. Right? Is that an H? A. Mary A. This guy's a man. Let's just put a child in there so we can narrow the search a bit more. Mary. Kid named Mary. And we know we have another kid named Henry after himself. Huh, look, he makes it into 1870. There he is in the federal census. This is what we're looking up right now. We have his death certificate. We have an 1850 census. We also have IRS tax documents on this guy. Will, probate information, tax records. A lot of tax records on this guy. I don't know what we could learn from that. Wow, yeah, tax lists. Let's just entertain this for a minute. Tax list of 1863. Where is he? What does this look like? Let's look for our pal Henry. Successful entrepreneur of ladies' shoes who employs Germans. Wow, look, we could learn a lot of info. Yeah, this is a taxation document. Name, location, quality, article of occupation, rate, valuation. Okay, let's find our man. Fireman. Oh, we have an address too. Wait, where's this address? Hold on. Location of, okay, so probably location of his store. Yeah. So what we'll do, here he is. What we'll do is we could use this information, choose this guy. Oh, lost it. We have a real character, someone who really lived in this time period, and just talk about him. So he lives on, where his business is 482 North 6th Street. I'm very curious. Let's do that. Let's search for it now. 482 North 6th Street. 482 North 6th. Oh. Haha, cool. Yep, this is in that neighborhood. See, here's a spring garden. Right near a modern day brewery. I wonder if the building still exists. It's where he worked. No. There's a Target. Okay. So, modern day Target is where he is, but either way, if we look at a larger image of the city itself, we're here. So, we'll need to find a link between this guy and our character. Perhaps he did an internship, we could say. How about that? That might be fun. Like, he worked there, or Mom's friend could be mom could be friends with the how about that? That'd be interesting. We could make our character's mother, our German mother, friends with Mary Fireman. Yep, let's do that. Okay, let's give our mom a name. Helga. Any German names we could think of? Hmm. I'll do my German name, Allgaier. Helga Allgaier. Allgaier is best friends with Mary Fireman, who whose husband is Henry Fireman of, and then we can find the name of his business, which is right here in the tax document. Boots and shoes made to. Oh, that's the name of his business. Let's. Henry is a successful German American business owner who specializes in ladies' footwear, particularly boots. Sorry about my spelling. And let's do source info. Let's do our snipping tool. There's Henry Fireman. Let's throw it right in there for us. Alright. Below is an image from the 1860 census. Mary is from Bavaria. And has two children. Mary and Henry. So these two children are too young for my character to really be interacting with. So, I could probably find stories about these people, make up something, who knows, but it's very easy to remember their names because they're named after mom and dad. Perfect. Okay. Uh, Now, how old is Julia though? Maybe that could be like a girlfriend of mine or something. 22. Would that be applicable? 22-year-old and a 28-year-old in 1864. It could. I don't know if I want to make my character married or not. With children, we'll see. That's to be decided. But uh, the Vireman family will just be, people we know, family friends. Okay. And because they're Bavarian, we could have some fun. Bavaria is the part of Germany that is very well known for Oktoberfest and the music of Oktoberfest and the German culture around beer and merriment. So I think that could very well be something that I could have fun portraying. I am in the process of learning a German song